this is the video for um, Thursday's assignment, which is going to be page 374. I'm sorry, 274. 274, and you're going to do 1 through 15. Okay, so instead of doing examples, I'm just going to show you what I want you to do on this assignment. So we're going to just do I'm going to pick a couple of problems from the actual assignment. So on page 274, you're going to need your graphing calculator for this. And this lesson talks about families of parabolas. And we know that a parabola is formed when we graph a quadratic equation, which is what all of chapter 4 has been about. And so let me get my page back up there. And so this just talks about transformations and when you change things on the equation, how it affects the picture of the graph. So if you look at page 274, we're going to start with problems 4 through 15, and then after you answer or work problems 4 through 15, then you can go back and answer problems 1, 2, and 3. So the directions for 4 through 15 says, examine each pair of functions and predict the similarities and differences in their graphs. Use a graphing calculator to confirm your predictions. Write a sentence or two comparing the two graphs. So for each problem, they're going to give you two equations to graph and to put into your y equals. So we're going to do number 4 first. So on your paper, you're going to write down each equation. Y equals x squared is my first one, and y equals x squared plus 3.5 is my second one. Then we're going to take our graphing calculator and we're going to graph both of these on the same xy axis. So in my y equals, I'm going to put x squared. And then my y2, I'm going to put x squared plus 3.5. Now, so that you can tell the difference between each two, we're always going to make our second graph a little darker so I know the difference between the two graphs. So I'm going to go over and highlight. I moved my cursor to right here before my y2, and I'm going to press enter one time, and you see it makes my line a little darker, so that when I graph them, I know that x squared plus 3.5 is my darker graph. Y equals x squared would be my light graph. Now on all of these, we're going to start off graphing these in a standard viewing window. So that's going to be your window from -10 to 10 on both your x and y axes. All right, so I'm going to hit graph. There's my first graph, y equals x squared. There's my second graph. Okay, so it says examine each, predict the similarities and the differences. I didn't have you predict. We're just going to write down what the similarities are. So it looks like it's the exact same graph, but it's shifted. My second graph is shifted up. It's hard to tell, but it's actually shifted up 3.5 spaces. All right, so here's what you're going to write as your answer. The similarities, and we'll just say similarities like that. The shape is the same, so same shape. Same shape. The differences, second graph, so y equals x squared plus 3.5 is shifted up 3.5 units. And really, that's something that we should know already from a previous chapter. So this is what I want your answers to look like. You're actually going to write out sentences, their similarities, and then their differences. Okay, so let's do another one. I'm going to skip down. Let's do number 12. So number 12, my first equation is y equals x squared. And remember, that's what we would call our parent graph. Our second equation is y equals -1/8 x squared plus 1. Now, from just using the things that we've learned so far, we should know that this second graph is going to be pointing down because of this negative. This 1/8 is going to either make it skinnier or fatter. And then this +1, it's going to shift up our parent graph 1 unit. So let's look at the graph and see what it looks like. So y equals, I'm going to clear both of those out. I'm going to put my x squared function in my y1. And in my y2, I'm going to put -1/8. So I'm going to use my fraction button. So second y equals -1/8. And now that x squared is over to the side. It's not in the bottom, so you have to be careful with that. -1/8 x squared plus 1. And I'm going to make this graph a little darker so I know the difference between the two when I'm looking at them. Now I'm going to hit graph. There's my parent graph. And there's my second graph. Wow, so there's a lot of differences. Really, the only similarity would be that they're both parabolas. Okay, so let's say similarities, both parabolas. And you could actually put that on all of them, but if there is another similarity, put that instead. The differences, all right, y equals -1/8 x squared plus 1. It's pointing down instead of that. Instead of saying pointing down, let's say that it is reflected about the x-axis. Okay, what else did we notice? It's also much wider than my original graph. All right, so I'm going to put wider than my parent graph. And it's also, you see how my vertex isn't at 0, 0? It's also shifted up 1 unit because of this one right here. So I could say the vertex is shifted up 1. Okay. And then you're going to just do that for each problem. Graph the two equations and then tell me their similarities and how they are different. Okay, and you get to use your calculator for all of them. You're going to do 1 through 15. After you've done 4 through 15, then you should be able to go back and answer your 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I will be back on Friday, and I'll answer any questions that you have on this. So your assignment is page 274, 1 through 15.